Hello, today we're visiting the Plastinarium in Guben from Body Worlds, where the original bodies are prepared. And first we have to get through some pretty small towns in the very east of Germany, very, very close to Poland.
Guben. Ausstieg in Fahrtrichtung rechts.
Once you're there, just go through the tunnel. It's a beautiful tunnel with interesting tiles, probably from the 1950s, I would think. Just a few steps. There are signs that guide you directly to the Plastinarium. So we walk under the train station directly to the site. This city was a little bit larger once, hence the huge train station with a lot of train tracks. But the factory, the empty factory, was bought then by Gunther von Hagens, and he decided to build his Plastinarium, his anatomical factory in there. The city of Guben in between became the city with the oldest inhabitants in all of Germany, which means there's not much infrastructure there. So if you're looking for entertainment and infrastructure, it's probably not going to happen. But the good news is you can fully focus on anatomy. It's peaceful here. You know, some bugs are crawling around. And mating is, it seems. Beautiful flowers. There we go. Hello, bugs. Hello, hello. Also be warned, the internet is quite bad here. They have Edge here at the train station, which is close to no internet. Hey, it's about anatomy. And flowers, of course. More beautiful flowers. Super beautiful, actually. Look at them. Wow. Nice. Sometimes there are school classes coming in. That is relatively new because the Ministry of Education did not allow before school classes to come over, but that obviously changed. We are getting closer. This is the building already. This heart was given to Gunther just a few weeks ago on the occasion of his birthday. Quite beautiful. In the background you see another sign. And this is the factory building. Regular opening hours for visitors for the museum are Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 6 p.m. But everybody else is working all the time. So if you make a special appointment, you can visit. We are now in the exhibition at the animals, and behind me is Rurik von Hagens. He's the mastermind now. And what do you think about the giraffe here?
That's quite unusual because it's on a tree, as you can see. And if you ask Gunther, why is the giraffe on the tree? He would always say, I want to do the impossible possible. Or make the impossible possible.
Which he did over the past, how many years? 50 years? When did he invent plastination?
77, 78. So 40 years now.
It's 40 years now. He is 80 and got as a gift the beautiful heart in front of the Plastinarium.
Yes.
And the Plastinarium itself is 20 years now.
Almost 20 years. 20 years next year. So we became adults, 18 years old last year.
How do you feel?
So
as
quite a while already. I'm a bit scared because I still consider us to be here in Guben quite young, and I think we still are. But yeah, not a kid anymore.
Things can be playful here in Guben. As you can see, the giraffe is on a tree, indeed. as Rurik said.
And then the second thing that he would say is, why is it on a tree? I want to make people think about why giraffes can't travel on trees, climb on trees.
And there we are in the middle of biology and anatomy. Also, for a while, Gunther enjoyed just sawing things apart. These are just prints. But I remember he had like a piano that he would saw into thin layers.
Piano. There's a piano over there. The best story about that is he sawed everything. So from a piano to a car to a trunk. He also sawed a Kalashnikov in a 1 millimeter slice. And the story is that once I had to bring that Kalashnikov slice to Heidelberg from Guben, and that day, normally I take the train, but that day I was flying and had it in my hand luggage. It wasn't functioning because it was just the 1 millimeter slice, but you don't see this in the X-ray. And I didn't think this would be a problem until I was at the X-ray machine and said, oh my God. So there was a bit of confusion at the airport.
And how did you get out of the situation?
Initially it wasn't funny, but after they saw it and asked what was that, I said, yeah, it's my father, he's an artist, he does these kind of things. It became cool. We even took a picture of that. I still have that on my mobile phone.
Let's have a look. And meanwhile, you heard it from Gunther's son. Gunther is an artist, so he's not only a skilled anatomy professor, but also an artist. Oh gosh, this is what the security saw. Oh God.
On the
X-ray machine.
So no kidding. So I was there. I didn't think this was a problem until I was at the X-ray machine, but it was too late. I couldn't check it anymore. So this is gonna be so. What happens if they indeed push a button then at the airport, and
people appear?
Yes. So immediately, so of course the lady who was sitting there and looking for nail files all day. Or little nail scissors or liquids or whatever, all of a sudden she sees this here. And so she was scared. And then so she presses a button, and then not a minute later there were 4 police people. First calm until they saw the X-ray, and then they weren't calm either.
Less calm.
But after they opened it up, so this is what it looks like inside then.
Oh wow.
Does that work? So you can clearly see this is not functional, but you don't see this on the X-ray. So then everything was fine. But yeah, that was quite the incident.
That's not all. Gunther also brought home his prison. Your dad was in prison.
Yes.
in Eastern Germany.
Yes.
For something that was people perceived to be directed against the state.
No, he tried to escape.
Oh.
He tried to escape. So what he always says is, initially he always said he was very much for the party. He liked socialism. He always said, if you're 20 years old and you're not a socialist, you have no heart. But if you're 30 years and you are still a socialist, then you have no brains. That's what he kept saying. So
they didn't like that and sent him.
No, well, actually, he tried to escape. And he was caught while escaping from East Germany. And that's when he he tried to do this via the Czech Republic. But somebody heard about it. Anyway, so he was caught. And we have his mugshots over there. And more importantly, his prison cell. So he said he spent 2 years in Stasi prison. Which prison was close by here. And he came when the prison was demolished and saved his own cell door. So this was the original door to the hallway, and this here is the original door to his cell. And now he has this in his exhibition.
Do you find your father to be like a very convincing man? So he convinced somebody to give him the prison cell to bring to an exhibit.
Yeah, he is a kind of, but they didn't need it anyway. So yeah. So this is here this is not the original bed and the original toilet and so on.
It was probably smaller. The prison cell was probably much smaller.
I hear that there were several people in the cell. So that is as it was, but this is the original door. And right over there, here are the mugshots.
Oh yeah, we wanted to see the mugshots.
Which were taken right after he was caught. So this was 1969.
He looks a little bit like a Britpop musician or something like that.
How people looked like in 1969.
We are one floor down now. This is Rurik, and here's the head of the plastination factory. Hello.
Yeah. Head of anatomy, actually, and plastination. Yeah.
Well, hello.
Yeah.
Why are your plastinates so much more beautiful compared to other people who try to do it but fail?
Right. So there are several things behind, and one thing is important. There is a passion behind the plastination, and so secondary, the technology is advanced here, and third, anatomically correct. So the professionalism, so to say.
Do you know every single nerve and every single muscle? Because you probably need to, right?
I hope so.
How long does it take to learn all of that?
A lifetime.
A lifetime learning.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you do? Let's say if a nerve or a blood vessel rips, can you just clamp it together or sew it together?
Yeah. So our goal is not to rip and not to damage any real structures. Of course, it's possible to repair it somehow, but with the present technique. But we try to not to rip it or damage.
And this here, the little needles, they're here to keep everything in place whilst it's getting harder.
Yeah, it's getting so harder. That means the plastic will be cured, and the plastinate will be hard.
How long?
Afterwards.
How long?
So now
does it take?
You see, so it's flexible now.
Yeah.
Yeah, pliable.
And it remains relatively flexible. It
remains relatively flexible. It will be harder, much harder. So it's like silicone.
How long does it take for this to bring it to the exhibit from this stage, the stage that you see?
Maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
So that's okay.
Yeah, from this stage.
Do you know how many universities on this planet have your plastinate?
That's a question to Rurik von Hagens.
What would you think? Let me make a guess. I would guess maybe 400.
400. Yeah, could be. I mean, honestly, Gunther started with this in the 80s. So from that time, there are still universities. And we we together started again when we started the laboratories here in Guben. So we started with that, then came the exhibitions, and that kept us so busy that we couldn't really make any specimens for universities. But then we came here, and now we are doing both for the exhibitions as well as for universities. And since then, we certainly had over 100 customers, way over 100 customers. So with the old ones, over 400 could well be possible.
Yeah, it's true. The exhibits are also very beautiful, of course. So let's have a look over here. Is this custom made? So do you already know who's going to buy this, or is it just made for the catalog?
It's a question for him, but most likely we know already.
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
we are so busy, thankfully, that in most cases we only start dissecting and making a specimen once the customer orders it.
Yeah.
But each plastinate has numbers. So it has the
I
body
see.
donor number, so we could trace it back to the original donor. So this, believe it or not, is a specimen that will go to Iraq.
To Iraq. Wow. What happens if one of the people who donate their body wants a nameplate on their plastinate? Would you do that, or would you not do that?
No, we won't do that. No. Yeah,
You don't want to encourage people to donate their body just to become part of an exhibit, right?
Yeah, body donors stay with no names.
Anonymous.
Anonymous, yes.
So don't expect this to be like an eerie thing. This is not going to happen here at Body Worlds and Plastination. All right, let's have a look a little bit at the anatomy. So what do we see here? So this is a blood vessel, I suppose.
So this is the terminal part of the aorta, the largest vessel of the body.
So if you have an injury there, that's very bad. Then you bleed to death, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the place where the aneurysm happens very often. That's just before bifurcation of the aorta, so bifurcation. Yeah, and this is already the iliac arteries, which belong to the pelvic region. Yeah, so these arteries basically supply pelvic region and also the lower limbs.
And there are muscles, of course.
Yeah, of course.
And what is this?
This is the
structure?
uterus. This is the female body. So that's a uterus, and so ovaries here, the uterine tubes.
They are really small, smaller than probably some people would think they are. If you think of a baby, of an 8-month-old baby.
Yeah, because the uterus is contracted now. Yeah, it's not pregnant.
No. So, and over here we have a male body. Again, this is the big
this
vein,
is
the big blood vessel.
This is the artery, so our aorta. And as you see here, so the internal organs of the pelvis, or the male pelvis, are removed, and this is the cross section of the prostate gland here, and here the urethra, so the prostatic urethra. That's the opening over there.
Do you think that this is really more for university students, or do you have the impression that in the exhibition people also understand what's going on? Or do you think they just wonder?
Of course, people will understand what is going on there. So yeah, and in the exhibitions we have some tags, so explaining the anatomy. But this is more. It's such a detailed specimen, so this is more for the universities. Yeah.
Then I think I do see some nerves here. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. So this strings, the small strings, that's the nerves. Basically, this is the cutaneous or sensory nerves. There are these ones, the thicker one. For instance, it goes into the muscle, as you see here. So that's a motoric nerves, which provide the action of the muscles, right?
And then I do see something here in the scrotum. It looks like a metal. That doesn't belong there. That's not originally there.
No, that doesn't belong to the human being. Basically, what we have done here, we separate the layers of the testicle, because testicle is enveloped in several layers, and so we have separated it with the metal foil.
And that will go out, of course, later, and before you deliver it, it will go out.
Yeah. So we'll remove it after curing, right?
People can see the different layers.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
No problem.
This here is a complete set of intestinal structures, so to speak. So, of course, the lung is here, and again, the big veins that we heard of before. This is quite beautifully done. And many people who see it, from my experience, because I've been working in the exhibit, I don't know, 25 years ago or so, people really relate to their own illnesses. For example, if they got cancer or cardiovascular disease or whatever it is, muscle pain, they love to look at the structures that they already know of. Sadly, often when it comes to illnesses, but we will change that, because Body Worlds and Körperwelten is about health, more about health than about illness.
Yes, even though you look at dead people, you learn about life.
Yeah, it's really true. This is something that really transpires in the whole exhibits about, for example, one is Herzenssache, about the heart.
Yes.
And
Body World and the Story of the Heart is the title.
And the heart. And in Berlin, you can even write on little notes what you thought after you went to the exhibit and so on. So this is very friendly and humane, not about death.
No.
No. Hier sind wir jetzt bei einer der sehr, sehr fleißigen Mitarbeiterinnen, die aus allen möglichen Ländern kommen, aus Deutschland, aber auch aus Polen. Wir sind an der polnischen Grenze, ne? Ja. Kannst du ein bisschen Polnisch, Tschechisch und sowas?
Ganz wenig.
Ah,
Dziękuję, dzień dobry.
na, immerhin,
Das
immerhin. Und hier seht ihr das. Man braucht Licht, man braucht, you need lights, you need a lot of patience, of course, and you need anatomical knowledge. So nothing is ripped, as we heard before. This is a typical set that most of the people who work here as plastinators or as arrangers, positioners use. This is quite typical. And sometimes there are job positions open.
Yes.
Apply.
Actually, right now.
Right now there
Yeah.
are positions open, so apply, and maybe you could become a positioner yourself. Over here is a station that was originally built during Corona, because you did live conferences here for whom?
Actually, for universities. So with our plastinates, every anatomist knows body worlds, and not every anatomist worldwide knows that these plastinates are also available for them to teach their students. So this is why we go to anatomy conferences. During COVID, we couldn't, so we built our booth here and did live streams during anatomy conferences when everything was virtual, and thankfully we can now travel again. But we kept the booth here, and when we are not traveling with our plastinates to conference, we show them here to the visitors.
Yes. And next year, when there will be the big 20th anniversary, probably you can even watch Rurik and me standing here and explaining something to the people who observe this. And this is a nervous system.
The central nervous system.
The central, not every single small nerve.
No, but you can already see how fine they go from branches and then further on. So that's quite impressive and quite difficult to dissect, of course.
Did you ever try it to dissect it, or did you?
Yes, actually.
Oh, you did.
Actually, as a high school student already. So I helped my father in the laboratories very early on, and dissection was only part, and I was really only doing the very easy parts like removing skin and connective tissue. And many times I was doing other jobs in the laboratory, like cutting tubes and all of that. But I was working in the laboratory, but I would fail miserably as a dissector.
Well, but one has to say, if Gunther is your father, it's a little bit difficult because he's super fast. It's unbelievable how fast he dissected. I've never in my whole life seen anybody, probably the head of the dissection here, who's dissecting as fast. It's really something that is unmatched, in my opinion.
He's definitely very creative when he has to occupy his little son. So when I was 3 years old, couldn't even speak, he took me to the laboratory, and since he wanted to work, he gave me a job to do. So he had a big box of little glasses or whatever, and he just showed me that I should move them from one box to another box. So that's what I was doing with 3 years old. And so I was busy for an hour moving these little glasses. And after that, he came with a new box, and it continued for another hour. And he had time working in the laboratory.
Wow. Oh yeah, we can also observe another station, the one where skulls are cracked. This is the more of the bony station. the little key band holders or ribbons are probably stand-ins for veins, but we wanted to show you how a skull is cracked, and there's a very old technique that, did you also learn that as a kid in the laboratory of your dad?
No, not that part. even though I'm sure that happened, but I at least I can't remember, and I would remember.
Yeah, you would probably remember. Well, we don't know. So you take peas, dry peas, put them in a skull, like that. Which is a regular technique. This is not something totally out of the order.
No.
Then this is all, as you can see, the peas are coming out.
Yeah. It's then put into here, just into liquid. The peas expand and crack the skull just at the fractures. So afterwards, you see here it's cracked, and here you see all those cracked bones, all 22 bones separately, and then we have a very skilled staff member who puts them together on wires, and we have this beautiful expanded skull, so you can see the separate bones much better than in a closed skull.
Yes, indeed. And the cracks are naturally given, and the older you get, the more they grow together.
Yes.
And in little small kids and babies, they are not grown together yet.
Yes.
cleaning time now. In the afternoon, people stop working. This is not going on like 24/7 or something. We are in Germany here, so there are normal working hours for the people.
8 hours plus breaks. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes even a little bit of sports, so that because
Move
people
your body
are
break.
sick.
Move your body break twice a day.
Yes. Maybe you already saw that sometimes there are heads here in the exhibition, or like on the skeletons, and spread inside, and that's no coincidence. It has a meaning, because this is the old hat factory, if I understand it correctly, right?
Correct. So of all places, Gunther, with the man with the hat, he bought an old hat factory. It was a coincidence, but a very, very well, very fitting coincidence, if you like. So those hats here, they have been made in these premises. So this is why the skeletons wear these hats.
Do you
those
know?
are hats
Do you know
which were
when?
made here in Guben?
When
those premises?
When did the factory close? Do you know approximately?
So the clothing factory, that was open until the end of East Germany. So
89.
89. It got smaller and smaller, and they weren't producing hats, I believe, in the very end. But Guben was famous for hats, and not on these premises though. But this was a clothing factory.
It was a clothing factory. And in the background, we see an announcement of a public autopsy in London, if I remember it correctly, in 2002.
Yes.
And that has not happened for a long time until Gunther did it.
It says here, last performed 1830.
That's quite possible. Do you still remember? I mean, the press was all over the place.
Yes,
this
it
was a
was.
super big thing. How did that go at that point?
Well, actually, at the time I was studying in the UK. So all of a sudden, well, some people knew my father, but after he did the autopsy, there was no way to hide, because we both have the same bad German accent. And it was live on TV, and full. Gunther said at the end, the craziest press day of his life, and he has had some indeed crazy press lives.
Oh yes,
press days. So it was quite the event, yeah.
I remember crazy press events in Cologne. That was probably a year before that, in 2001, or I don't know. 2000. In the year
1999, 2000 was Cologne, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that because the press was also all over the place, because there were a lot of newspapers at that point printed on paper, like six or seven, and they all wanted to have the best story, and the best story was the story of Körperwelten.
Yes.
So this went on for months and months, and the articles are still in the archive here upstairs. Someday somebody will sort the whole archive. Oh, and since you see Andreas Vesalius here, I don't know if you can see that, we just did an interview with Angelina, the mastermind of the exhibits, and Gunther, about exactly this book, about the book that you see here. And I'll just translate it to English, and then you can download it, click somewhere below.
Yes.
Rurik, you just told me that school classes are now finally allowed to
Yes.
come to Bodyworld's Plastinarium. This took a very long time.
Yes.
I don't know, like more than 15 years until
15, 16 years. So in the very beginning, the Minister of Education of the state where we are located.
the county, so to speak.
The state, yeah.
Yeah,
So
state, yeah.
Germany is a federal republic. We have 16 states. And so the Minister of Health of this state here, she didn't allow school children to come here. So school children were coming from Poland all the time, and from outside of the state, but from the state themselves they couldn't. And she decided that and gave that order without ever having seen this here.
Wow.
Finally, after many years, and then the following ministers, they just didn't change the decision and didn't come and look at it either. But now they can. So the minister actually recommended schools coming here. So some things just take time.
And change can go into a good direction.
Yes.
And when Gunther started with plastination, you already mentioned the 1970s. I don't know if we had that in the video, but over here we see plastinated cheesecake from 1979, and also a plastinated beach
Mud flat is that.
Mud flat. Wow. And also mushrooms.
We have snail, frogs. Basically, you can plastinate anything
But
which has fluids inside and a surface which let the fluids through.
And that's why the brain is complicated, because it's relatively fatty, but Gunther mastered it.
Yes.
So that can also be done. Did you ever at any point have any plastinate at home in your personal room when you were smaller? Or did you never have anything? Like the cheesecake?
Plastinates, no, he once brought some, but then brought them back to the laboratory. But what he once brought, that was quite a funny story. He had old plastic models. So not plastinates, but real plastic models. They didn't need it at the anatomy department anymore. So he brought them home so I could play with them. And they were on the balcony. We had kind of a lodge in the back of our 3-bedroom apartment. And there we had those. And he always said, those are corpses for you to play with. So that's what I told my friends in kindergarten.
Wow.
And then the kindergarten teacher called at home, is it true that you have corpses on your balcony for your son to play?
But it was just plastics.
It was just plastic.
It was just plastics. Don't believe stories that tell you otherwise. This looks unusual if you have never seen this, but in anatomical exhibits, it is quite normal to show all types of anatomical structures.
Yes, so this is actually the best alternative to plastination. So these are formaldehyde fixed specimens. So those specimens are preserved by putting them into formaldehyde, which kills bacteria and everything. But it has a disadvantage. They are wet. The specimen that falls together like a small sponge. It's carcinogenic, not very practical, especially if you have a big specimen. And those ones here, those are block embedded specimens. So they are preserved by having plastic around the plastinate, or around the specimen. And this is what Gunther, my father, actually found when he was teaching anatomy. And he thought, that's stupid. Why is the plastic around the specimen? You can't see it. It would be better if you have the plastic inside the specimen, so it could be stabilized from within. And that's how he came up with the idea of plastination.
Of course, there are also smaller animals, like this bunny over here. And also skeletonized specimens. And this is the man himself, Gunther, with a big heart. I think from a whale's heart. And maybe that was inspiration for the heart that you saw standing in front of the factory. Hello, Gunther. He's not here today, but he's in our hearts. Now I'm giving a little speech about a topic that people would like to give me. Do you have a preference for a topic for a speech that I give tonight? Blood stains, decomposition.
Decomposition would be very nice. A stage decomposition. Yes.
You're the personal assistant of the man himself,
yes.
Of Gunther, the man of which we are talking in this video a lot. How is he doing right now?
He's doing really well. Yeah, very well. Thank you. Very
And he
well.
may call us.
He may call us. Yes.
we will see.
Yeah.
And do you ever, because I asked his son, did you ever receive a plastinate as a gift that you took home, or do you avoid taking plastinates home?
No, that wouldn't be very ethical. No.
It wouldn't be ethical on the one hand, that's true, yeah. But let's say it was a plastinated cheesecake, like the one that is downstairs. That's not an ethical concern.
Maybe, no, but I couldn't eat that one.
So you only like sweets if you can eat them. I sympathize with that. Hello, Gunther. Today we are speaking English just because we can. Yeah. For Rebecca. Because Rebecca, and also because I do a TikTok video. Is Gunther on TikTok?
No.
Not yet. I recommend it. It's going to produce a lot of attention. We just had a little speech here. Thank you very much for the beautiful opportunity to do it here. And two of your favorite people are also here, saying hi. Any wishes for tonight or for tomorrow for Gunther?
Hi.
Hi.
Toy, toy. As we
Toy. The sun goes down, and we are going now into parts of the exhibit that are hardly known by anyone. Not true. And these are the blood vessels, the actual blood vessels filled with a resin, and super beautifully done. And you can see that the actual form of the animal is still visible. And how many blood vessels we all have in our bodies. This is super fragile. Could you move that to an exhibit, or would everything break apart?
That's really the biggest problem, and that's one of the things where Gunther is researching until today. He's dreaming of the polymer that can be, just squeezed like a sponge and then goes back.
It's not brittle at all.
Yeah.
If you have a suggestion, write an email to Rurik. There is also art inside of the exhibit, and there's always something surprising happening. We are not telling you anything, or not too much at least, about the exhibit, but you get an idea already. Here is the statue. Whilst the heart is still beating behind us, I don't know if you can hear it, we are entering the super large hall full of surprises. Of course, some plastination, a shoulder here, and you can learn about medical implants. But you know what? Why don't you come yourself and observe
This
yourself?
is basically the view into what we do, and it's not a body worlds exhibition, but kind of, because this is organized by body function as well. So we start with the locomotive system, and then here's a cardiovascular system, the nervous system, respiratory system, and in the showcases we show plastinates, quite often healthy and disease in comparison. So we have a smoker's lung and non-smoker's lung.
Oh, let's have a look.
We have a
or a
let's
big
start with the
big
lung
city
here.
dweller lung. People,
Yes.
people who live in big cities also have a smoker's lung, so to speak, just probably not from smoking. So here's an example. That's tuberculosis, looking bad. That is a smoker's lung.
Definitely. And that is a lung smoker. One has to say, though, that this is somebody, he couldn't have lived in a large city. So it's a non-smoker and somebody who lived not in, I don't know, Berlin or Beijing or any other city with a lot of pollution.
Yes. So if you live in a big city, you know what's going on here. But it looks much worse if you live in a big city and smoke.
Yeah, you see here, this is definitely a heavier smoker, and this is a casual smoker.
Don't do it. We were talking about blood vessels in animals, and over here you see the blood vessels in a human being. And so that it doesn't fall apart, Gunther put it into resin. Is that correct?
Yes.
So this cannot fall apart.
Yes.
Because it was an unbelievable amount of work to get this done. The resin is injected into the veins, and then everything else is corroded away, so to speak, but chemically, not by hand. Talking about surprises, sometimes it's photographs that may surprise you. We talk about Gunther's dad. He became very old.
106 years.
106 years. When did he die? Very, very few years ago.
July 2022. He always said he has a contract for 110 years.
Aha.
But then when he turned 100, he said, well, in my age, a few years more or less, I won't argue.
Haha. No negotiations necessary anymore. And this also shows you that the body is not only interesting in a disassembled state, but also in an assembled state. So, for example, exercise and motion and lifelong learning keep you healthy and fit.
Well, actually, the exhibition is about life. So, yes, it shows dead people, but you learn about life. And what this illustration here should illustrate is that what are the secrets to a long and healthy life? So, so this is the club of the 100-year-old people. And they all have three things in common. So the first thing, if you want to have a long life, become over 100 years old, is keep moving. So all of these people, they're all active. You see here the swimmer, somebody still driving, working. So that's one thing, keep moving. Second thing is healthy diet. And the third is have a purpose in life. So whether that's a hobby, whether that's talking or having contact with other people, still working when you're old, those three things, keep moving, healthy diet, and have a purpose. That is important.
For example, help other people.
Yes.
You know, it's easy to find a purpose. Don't wait for the purpose to find you. You can also find your purpose. We are now at a very new statue of Gunther, and done by the same artist that you already know. And some people think it doesn't resemble Gunther too much. Others think it's a beautiful artistic piece. What is your opinion? Post it under this video and let us know what you think. We are really interested. We are, right? Yes. Another piece that attracted some attention was the function of sexual cohabitation. Some people thought this should not be illustrated with anatomical models. Others thought it was a particularly good idea. You decide. It is not always in the exhibit here. Sometimes it's, do I understand you correctly here, that it's sometimes elsewhere?
It's sometimes traveling. So
yeah.
All of the specimens that we have here, you know, sometimes we get them from exhibitions when we clean them, and when there is some time between two exhibitions, then we show specimens here, but then they get on the road again, so to speak.
Yes, I find it quite poetical. Look at them holding hands. These are sliced bodies, originally sliced. There are also prints available if you prefer that. But to me, that was something that I found very interesting in the very beginning when all this was developed. Because before I had only seen that in formalin, and that was really clumsy, you know, because there was like thick brick-like structures that you had to pull out and push in and so on. And now this is all freely available, either in a transparent resin, as you have seen it before, or as fully, I don't know, available, experienceable body parts. Let me guess, is this another smoker's lung again? I fear so. Next to the sliced bodies, or body parts, let's have a look at them. They're beautifully made. The bones, the lung, the muscles are some anatomical pictures. We already talked about that, from Vesalius probably, and from other anatomical teachers from former times. And also the kneeling skeleton. That caused quite a stir or even a scandal in Cologne at the exhibit, because we had the original skeleton, an original skeleton there, kneeling, and some people didn't like that for reasons that I don't fully conceive. These are again blood vessels, obviously from a shark. And behind that, I don't know if you can see that, is an actual piece of artistic art, I would say. So let's check the artistic art out. It's called the Mystical Plastinate from 2003 because it shows a mystical situation. So there's the tongue and the lungs and the people riding, a person riding on their own anatomical structures. Another piece of art, clearly assembled and put together. Again, the blood vessel system. Wow. And the hair. That was our little tour. Come visit the Plastinarium. It's really super interesting. In my opinion, you can spend hours and hours here. I don't know, 6 hours or even more. It's a little remote, as you have seen. So you could come from Berlin. It takes you, you know, like if you want to do it in a quiet way, maybe 2 hours by train. You can try to sleep here if you find an apartment, a hostel, Airbnb. Hotels are a little bit difficult, but you can also go back because there are still trains going back to Cottbus and Frankfurt an der Oder. So you are safe. You are safe. Thank you very much for watching the video. I'm Mark Benecke. I'm a forensic biologist and I started working for Body Worlds 25 years ago. Bye-bye. And that's it. Back through the tunnel to Berlin. If you want to, you can also visit the Menschen Museum here at Alexanderplatz. It's inside of the TV and radio tower, somewhere there. Just walk from downstairs and you're there. Enjoy Berlin and the Körperwelten and the Plastinarium. Cheers, Mark.